Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. Buona deal.
Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royalty's eyes. Royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. I can love. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. Royalty. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest of prizes, no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it. I can see you. Yeah, I see it. Now I recognize now. Royalty. I can see you. I see it. I can love again. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty. Recognize royalty.
Yeah, all right. Welcome to episode 3. We're back at it. Uh, we're hailing disco today. I'm sorry. Yesterday, the last episode was hailing disco. Today we are actually partying with the Black Spades. Today we're partying with the Spades. Last show, when the reason we held disco is because we learned that disco is short for discotheque, which is a French word. Disco is actually a French word, and in the debate of who owns disco, at least. I think we're trying to make the argument that disco is white people stuff as well. And I think the fact that it's a French word, what I mean, is strong evidence. Um, and the fact that also discotheques started in France, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in Europe. And we said discotheques are, in my estimation, absolutely the foreshadowing of street parties. I mean, we said street parties are just the disco parties after they left the text, the discotheques. Um, yeah, yeah. So there are strong arguments for us to say disco is white people stuff. It remained popular in Europe after it died down in the States. Another hint that it's their stuff, because they held on to it. Um, we also learned from the last episode when we hailed disco. Part of the reason we hailed disco also was because we realized that it started out as an escape to the doom and gloom of what was going on in Europe at the time with a lot of with the Nazi stuff. And so it was seen as, the dancing was seen as an escape to that. Um, so we hailed disco, not the other guy. So today we want to talk about the street party culture that evolved from the discotheques, which we call hippity hop culture. It's only an evolution of the discotheques. I think we've learned that the gangs kind of took over the street parties by kind of closing down discotheques, if you will, got the people outside. Gang activity, gang. Um, they kind of terrorized discotheques. They literally did, and then after that they started having street parties. Isn't isn't that something? that kind of is interesting. So we're gonna have a street party with the Black Spades today. We're gonna learn about the Black Spades. Um, and how disco kind of went, with hip hop. Disco went to the left, they went to the left to street party with the spades. Did y'all get that bar? They went to the left to party with the spades. They went to the left to party with, what I mean, to the left, the left wing party. I think that's something that we're gonna learn about as well. Um, yeah, and that is another bar. I got bars. Disco Fever gave me sick hip hop bars, if you remember. Um, so I got bars. Y'all can at least stay for the bars at least. Um, but let's leave the bar and go to the party with the spades. Um, Look, I did it again. Leave the bar, go to the party with the spades. Leave the bar, go to the part. That's another one. I'm too good. But seriously, let's let's see what we can learn from our good friend Wikipedia. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, yeah. Let's do the wiki and see what we can see. Um, Yeah, so it says the Black Spades were a mostly African American street gang, which started in the Bronx during the late 1960s and gained popularity in the 70s. The gang began to spread from the Bronx to Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, New Rochelle, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Connecticut by the late 1980s. During this period, Latino and white members were more common. The Black Spades, during this period, Latino and white members were more common. The Black Spades have made a comeback in 2019 with more members joining. They are now TBS New Direction, a community service group championing anti-violence initiatives and providing food distribution for the food insecure. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I've noticed, even with the idea of gangs, terrorizing discotheques and then having the people leave the discotheques and then having parties outside. That's kind of interesting. It's the same way, like, with the idea that they're now a new organization that's championing anti-violence. It's that's kind of interesting that they morph into groups. They kind of start street wars and then morph into a group that fights against street wars. Um, you know what I mean? They terrorize. They get the people out of the discotheques, then throw parties outside. That's interesting, isn't it? Um, yeah, that's interesting. It's like they steal your phone, then help you look for it. Um, yeah, that's crazy. That's interesting though. But anyway, let's continue reading and see what else we can learn about the Black Spades. Yeah, so a little more history about the Black Spades. The gang originated in 1968 in the Bronx Dale houses in the Soundview section of the Bronx. Although rumor says they were originally named the Savage Seven, the name from the start was the Black Spades. The Black Spades officially formed in Junior High School 123 on Morrison Avenue in Soundview, originally a teenage street organization. The Spades followed the teachings of the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, and were influenced by the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground organization. That's interesting. Um, yeah. Under the leadership of the original president, David Brockington, who was a member of the Nation of Islam, the Spades organized to fight against the racism and bigotry in the Soundview, Glasson Point, Parkchester, Castle Hill, and Throgs Neck neighborhoods of the Bronx. The First Division Black Spades policed and protected Bronxdale houses from the rise in crime, drug dealers, and heroin addicts who began to take over the community. Um, yeah, I guess this is kind of all making a little more sense to me now. Because they said they started in a junior high school, right? So these were teenagers, um, and so just the idea of them organizing to fight racism in their neighborhood, um, just seemed like a lot for teenagers to be doing. It just seemed as if they were formed. Now it's kind of clear that the Black Spades was a larger organization. They were a larger organization, and they they had a division of, I guess, younger children, and so. Um, that's kind of how it all that's so they were formed for a specific reason. These were 13-year-old kids, so it sounds as if they were being recruited to join the gangs for a very specific reason. And when you hear about who they're following, like people like, what I mean, the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, NOI, you can see that there sounds to be, it's not just kids, it's grown-ups involved in this whole scheme, if you will. Um, and that's interesting. Um, you know, so they are in gangs, you know, these are kids that are in gangs, so these are badass kids, you know. Um, but then they are in gangs that are organized to fight racism and bigotry. So they're good ass badass kids. um, it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting, and it's very interesting, but it's also kind of strange, you know. Um, yeah, but let's continue reading just a little bit more. But again, it seems as if the hippity hoppers are just a front for something bigger, social movement bigger than them. And the hippity hoppers, I'm talking about those 13-year-old kids that were just doing their thing, what I mean, with the nursery rhymes, we're at the street parties, you know, doing their thing to the disco, I presume, rapping to the disco, um, if you will. Um, but yeah, so that's where we are at this point. Um, So let's just continue reading just a little bit. Let me just find where I am. All right. The gang quickly spread to nearby housing projects in the Soundview area, Monroe houses, Soundview houses, um, Bronx River houses, Bronx River, and throughout the Bronx, starting a subculture inviting music into the lives of gang members. The Black Spades were also participants in the Hoe Avenue Peace Meeting. Yeah, even that peace meeting, the fact of 13-year-old kids being involved in a Hoe Avenue peace meeting, which was, a big deal in the city at the time. A lot of people were there, a lot of politicians were there, the police were there. That's a big deal. So now it kind of makes sense that they are just a division, and if not a division, kind of like just kind of a subgroup within a larger organization. They seem to, right. They're the baby spades. You got the Black Spades, you got the baby spades. I think they may have had junior spades. So they're just one level. And I think the whole organization is in charge of that social movement for what hip hop is about. And whatever their role is, it's centered around hip hop culture. And their role is, that's where their role seems to be kind of centered. Yeah. So let's just hear what else is written here. The Black Spades also included a women's division that started in the Glassing Point Housing and Junior High School IS 131. Um, that's crazy. They were a women's division that started in the junior high school. Now, were there adults in these junior high schools recruiting? That's just so crazy. That's just interesting. But anyway, by the early 1970s, the Black Spades had increased in numbers, and members began to lose focus of their original purpose. The Black Spades and young members, Young Spades and Baby Spades, became violent, and other divisions were unrestrained. David Brockington didn't like the direction that they were headed, so he stepped down as First Division president. Afterwards, Monk became the new supreme president of the Black Spades, which became a full-fledged street gang. New York street gang activity peaked in 1973 and then began to decline. Reasons for this decline included violence and drug use, as well as a move to the burgeoning hip hop culture in park jams, block parties, and clubs. Um, yeah, um, that's all. That's all interesting. You know, but let's continue to read. I don't think we've read anything um, that's of interest at this point. But wait, maybe this will be. Afrika Bambaataa was a member in a Black Spade First Division First Chapter, then joined the Bronx River House's Black Spades 10th Division before becoming a famous hip hop DJ. He went on to form the Universal Zulu Nation on November 12, 1973, with several members following him. I told y'all these were some badass baby kids, right? Like the kids that started it, since these are the gang member kids, these are baby kids, and it looked like Bambaataa is baby. Like that's pretty much what this is. Um, you know, hippity hoppers, that are claiming hip hop are claiming Bambaataa as their father. Because it sounds as if, Afrika Bambaataa is behind the whole, recruiting these kids as part of that gang. You know what I'm saying? And doing what he's doing. Afrika Bambaataa is your father. He's the father of hip hop, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? And you can have him. You can have him as your father. Let's hope it works out better for you than for them other kids. Allegedly. But yeah, but y'all are children of Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. That's who the hippity hoppers are. That's who y'all are. But let's read a little more. There's Cool DJ Herc. Yes. The Jamaican brethren. Bo. I used that. No, let me stop. Let's see. Cool DJ Herc, an early hip hop music pioneer. So this is referring to Cool Herc as a pioneer. You know what I mean? And that's good because, you know what I mean? He didn't create hip hop. Nope. That's all Bambaataa. Baby created hip hop for his kids. So it's not Cool Herc. So it says Cool Herc, an early hip hop music pioneer, credits gangs including the Black Spades with getting the hip hop scene started. Gangs including the Black Spades, and you know what I mean. The Black Spades looks like Bambaataa was running the Black Spades. Bambaataa is your father. Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. You know what I mean? That's who created hip hop. Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation created hip hop. You know what I mean? Excuse me, let me switch that. They took white people's music and switched it up and created hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But it's still white people stuff. You know, the same way they took white people's music and mixed it and scratched it and uh, break break it or break beat it. The same way they just take people's music and do what they want with it is the same way they took white people's culture, disco culture. They took disco culture and remixed it and scratched it and broke it. You know what I mean? And created hip hop culture. But that's all it is. It's just remixed disco culture. But it's white people culture nonetheless. It's the gang version of white people culture. Um, but it says Cool DJ Cool Herc credits the Black Spades with getting the hip hop scene started. It started coming together as the gangs terrorizing a lot of discotheques back in the days. Man, exactly. They were terrorizing the discotheques. Makes sense. They were, you know what I mean? And I think that made people not want to go to the discotheques. And if you don't go to the discotheque, you got to party outside, maybe go to the street parties. I mean, it sounds like a plan with these gangs, man. It always sounds like a plan. You know, they terrorize the discotheques, get them out the tech so they can have street parties. You know, and it's the same thing they do with even the street wars. They create street wars, and then after that, they create anti-violence movements against street wars. Um, like I don't know. It sounds like a scam to me, but whatever. What do I know? Um, again, it says it started coming together as the gangs terrorizing a lot of known discotheques back in the days. I had respect for some of the gang members because they used to go to school with me. They were the Savage Skulls, Glory Stompers, Blue Diamonds, Black Cats, and Black Spades. Yeah, so it doesn't look like Cool Herc was one of them gangbangers. You know what I mean? Us Jamaicans, we don't be gang banging. We don't be down with that stuff. I mean, well, okay, I'll take that back. But cool Herc didn't mess with that stuff. He just hung out with y'all. He just hung out with y'all and brought his stuff and threw parties with y'all. But that was it. That's all we had to do with it. We don't want no more than that. All right. The organization had a strong following through the late 1990s. Around this time, many young members of the organization transitioned their membership to the Blood Street Gang in NYC. The Bloods. So the Bloods are East Coast and the Crips are West Coast. Like, you know what I mean? You can't have hip hop history without and a history about gangs without mentioning the Bloods and Crips. Bloods ran the East Coast as far as and then the Crips are West Coast. I wonder if that has anything to do with the social movement. Hmm. Maybe I'm thinking too much. What y'all think? Maybe. Who knows? Um, so and I think also that maybe again, I think that's probably the main reason why it's so hard to get rid of the N word. Um, is because the N word belongs to hip hop culture, and hip hop culture belongs to the gangs. You're not going to get rid of the N word because you're not going to get rid of the gangs. And I don't know if our community is ready to get rid of gang culture yet. We are too invested in the gang. We are gang. You know what I mean? We love everything gang. The black community loves that. You know what I mean? And that's not just African Americans, that's Jamaicans, that's Puerto Ricans. For some reason, I don't know if it's an inner city thing, but it's gang. It's West Coast, East Coast. Um, our community is really engulfed in gang culture. Um, yeah. Let's see if there's anything else of interest. In early 2022, a resurgence of Black Spades members have risen in the River Park Towers housing complex of the West Bronx. This latest incarnation of the Black Spades are a neighborhood self-policing unit that has plans to participate in homeless food drives, after-school programs at CIS 229, and other positive neighborhood development. Yeah, so again, they always seem to morph into positive neighborhood stuff after creating a lot of negative neighborhood stuff. But I don't know. That's another uh, that's another topic for another show. Um, but yeah, just to summarize, for my hippity hoppers out there, um, the baby spades are just one division of or one level of the black spades. So they're just really, they're just really children with, they're pawns, if you will, in whatever the social movement of hip hop was or and really is. This is a movement centered around gang culture. It's centered around drug culture, and it's centered around sexual promiscuity. And that's that's what that's what disco culture was as well. Disco culture was the drug culture and the sex promiscuity. What hip hop added was just the gang culture to it. There there it is. Disco is drugs and sexual promiscuity, and hip hop is just gang activity added to that. That is what is added to disco to make it hip hop. So you didn't really add music. If anything, you added gang culture to what was going on, or gang activity to the whole movement. Um, so gang activity, drugs, promiscuity, um, which right now, P Diddy is the poster boy for. P Diddy is hip hop. Um, yeah, and the history of hippity hop is the history of Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu nation. Um, that's really what it is. And so another question is what were they about? What was going on with Bambata and the Zulu nation, and the whole, just everything else? What else were they involved with in terms of the movement with creating hip hop? And we may go there next, in terms of what direction we take for this rabbit hole, as we go down in the rabbit hole and see where it takes us. um yeah. So I think we've touched on everything. um Nothing else left to say at this point, other than look out for part four, man. Part four is coming. Part four is coming. So you don't want to miss it. Hit the like button, please. May I beg you, hit the like button and the subscribe. Hit subscribe right after you hit the like button. You know what I mean? And then the notification, like, it don't cost nothing. Hit the notification bell as well. It can only help. And and then join my Discord server. Join the Discord server. It's the link is in the description of the video. Join the server. You get to interact with me all day. Ain't that something? That's Don't get no better than that. You know what I mean? Shout out to Sunchild. Sunchild is one of the main ones that is brave enough to interact with me in the Discord. So it's me and Sunchild. Y'all can come hang out with me and Sunchild. How amazing is that? 2 for 1. You know what I mean? So join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. We get to talk all day, every day, which is amazing. Um, and I think that's all. I think that's enough to ask of people. Did I mention Twitter? I mean X. Join my X at American Dream Guy. I'm on X, American Dream Guy. Follow me. You know what I mean? Follow me, no man. So, yeah, I think that's it now. That's it. That's it. There can't be more. No, the last thing. Y'all see the Cash App, right? The Cash App is right there. American dream is alive. But you know what I mean? You gotta help keep the dream alive. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, that's another bar. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, man. Word up. American dream is alive. Hit the Cash App. That's what's up. It would be highly appreciated. You know what I mean? Word up. Y'all are the best for being here, man. It's amazing to to be doing this. So once again, catch y'all on the next one. Until next time, peace out.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work working with the man? It's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? To choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix some in some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see you. I can see it. I recognize now it's your royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.